from verse 2 to verse 28. This is the story of Jacob. The story continues with Joseph, 17 years old at the time, helping out his brothers in herding the flocks. These were his half-brothers actually, the sons of his father's wives Bilhah and Zilpah. And Joseph brought his father bad reports on his brothers. Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he was the child of his old age. And he made him an elaborately embroidered coat, or coat of many colors in other translations. When his brothers realized that their father loved him more than them, they grew to hate him. They wouldn't even speak to him. Joseph had a dream. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said, "Listen to this dream I had. We were all out in the field gathering bundles of wheat. All of a sudden, my bundle stood straight up, and your bundles circled around it and bowed down to mine." His brothers said, "So, you are going to rule us? You are going to boss us around?" And they hated him even more than ever because of his dreams and the way he talked. He had another dream and told this one also to his brothers. "I dreamed about another dream. The sun and moon and 11 stars bowed down to me." When he told it to his father and brothers, his father reprimanded him. "What's with all this dreaming? Am I and your mother and your brothers all supposed to bow down to you?" Now his brothers were really jealous, but his father brooded over the whole business. His brothers had gone off to Shechem, where they were pasturing their father's flocks. Israel said to Joseph, "Your brothers are with flocks in Shechem. Come, I want to send you to them." Joseph said, "I'm ready." He said, "Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are doing, and bring me back a report." He sent him off to the valley of Hebron, from the valley of Hebron to Shechem. A man met him as he was wandering through the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" "I'm trying to find my brothers." "Do you have any idea where they are grazing their flocks?" The man said, "They've left here, but I overheard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph took off, tracked his brothers down, and found them in Dothan. They spotted him off in the distance. By the time he got to them, they had cooked up a plot to kill him. The brothers were saying, "Here comes that dreamer. Let's kill him and throw him in one of these old cisterns. We can say that a vicious animal ate him up. We will see what his dreams amount to." Reuben was the oldest brother, heard the brothers talking and intervened to save him. "We're not going to kill him. No murder. Go ahead and throw him in the cistern out here in the wild, but don't hurt him." Reuben plans to go back later and get him out and take him back to his father. When Joseph reached his brothers, they ripped off the fancy coat he was wearing, grabbed him, and threw him into a cistern. The cistern wasn't dry. There wasn't any water in it. Then they sat down to eat their supper. Looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites on their way down from Gilead, their camels loaded with spices, ointments, and perfumes to sell in Egypt. Judah said, "Brothers, what are we going to get out of killing our brother and concealing the evidence? Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let's not kill him. He is, after all, our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. By the time the Midianite traders were passing by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph with them down to Egypt. So that's the story, the initial story that starts the whole Joseph cycle, the Joseph story. What a story it is. What a family. What a dysfunctional family. The first thing we learn about Joseph is that his father loved him more than all the other sons. That's not fair. How did the other sons have to feel about his father making this coat of many colors, or richly embroidered coat, for their youngest one, and just publicly preferring the youngest and overlooking all the other ones? What we learn right from the beginning of the story is that Joseph used to bring bad report about his brothers to their father. Sounds like something you've seen or experienced? Is that cool? No. Favoritism is not a good thing in a family, right? So Joseph was the youngest. He was preferred by his father. Today we would call him a spoiled brat. Am I right? And they didn't like that. They hated him. I don't blame them, in a sense. His brothers are, of course, not positive heroes in this story, but we can have some understanding for them. They were so frustrated. So they hated him. And he was so spoiled, and he was so insensitive. He never felt what they feel, the lack of the father's love. So he was so insensitive as to tell them about his dream. Sometimes we think this is like God's dreams, but it never says that this was God's dream. It was Joseph's dream. And I don't blame Joseph dreaming this dream. He wanted his brothers' respect. He was hated by them. And that hurts too. His brothers suffered of lack of love from their father. He suffered their hatred. And his dream was to be one day to be respected by them. He was 17 years old. So this went on for a long, long time. 17 years of hatred. And the dream Joseph had was to be respected, to be listened to, not to be scorned. Here comes that dreamer. We hate you. The story says actually that after he shared his dreams with the brothers, they hated him so much that they couldn't even speak to him. I think that's the worst kind of hatred. It's worse than shouting and fighting, ignorance. You're not there, you're air, we ignore you. We will not speak to you. So he dreamed about being respected, not being air, not being nothing, being something, being somebody in his brother's eyes. But as spoiled as he was, as insensitive, with lack of empathy, because he was egocentric, because his father just poured love on him, he shared this dream. I mean, when you were 17 years old, you could have more intelligence than to tell your brothers that hate you about this kind of a dream. Sometimes we should keep our dreams for ourselves, and sometimes the time comes to share them. And we should be careful whom we share our dreams with, if we don't want to be hated or stabbed or disappointed, hurt. Joseph didn't know this, so he shared his dreams with wrong persons in the wrong time. And his brothers wanted to kill him. Then they realized, well, it would be fun to kill him, but it would be more profitable to sell him. So these were 10 brothers. The youngest, Benjamin, was not with them. He was really a baby. And so 10 brothers sold Joseph to Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. So that means 2 pieces of silver. I don't know I would know in grams. This is like 22 grams for each of them, which is really, I don't know in ounces how much that would be. Almost nothing. It's not really much. You can't make a ring of it's just a little piece of silver that each of them got from that. And they brought the report back to the father that wild animals ate Joseph. What a dysfunctional family. How much pain there.